Hello and welcome to a special 4th of July episode of the Habit Podcast. In July and August, we'll be running a special summer series called Leaving Home Stories. Writers from the Habit membership will read personal narratives on the theme of leaving home, literally or metaphorically, temporarily or permanently. The writers workshopped these stories in a recent class within the Habit membership. The first of these leaving home stories is from Judith McQuoid, who left her home in Northern Ireland 50 years ago, almost to the day, for a sojourn in the Texas Panhandle. Leaving behind the troubles in Northern Ireland, little Judith and her family arrived in America just in time to celebrate the bicentennial. This beautiful reflection is a love letter to America and a reminder of what this country can still mean to people from around the world. Besides being a stalwart of the Habit membership, Judith McQuoid is the author of Giant, a fictional retelling of C.S. Lewis's boyhood in Belfast, Northern Ireland. And now, summer 1976.
Summer 1976. Only Dad had ever been on a plane before, that one visit to London as a single man. And none of us had ever been outside the UK and Ireland. Even so, we found ourselves, the 5 of us and our trusty Labrador dog, boarding a plane headed for the Panhandle of Texas. It was summer 1976. We'd been through the decluttering, the selling of our furniture, the wrapping up of our non-essentials into shipping crates, and the packing of our absolute necessities into multiple suitcases. Aged 16, 13 and 7, my brother and sister and I weren't ready to say goodbye to our schoolmates, our cousins, our Irish life, but we were going anyway. Months before, 8 Americans had visited our church and spent time with us as a family. They'd helped Mum and Dad to plan a new life, new home, new church. Dad, a pastor, was ready to move on. He'd had enough of consoling widowed wives and children, of burying victims of bombs and shootings. Ulster was no place to raise a family anymore. On the way to our first stop in New York, things were not going to plan. Hugely delayed by bad weather, we missed our connection and were going to land in Amarillo in the middle of the night. Dad answered Mum's questions in a raspy whisper. Surely the 8 US friends wouldn't be there to meet us. How would we find our way out of the airport to our new house in a new country we'd never been to before? Who would speak up for us if the authorities asked questions we didn't know the answer to? Who would help us? I still have the photos taken of us that night in Amarillo, just as we stepped out of the tunnel at the gate. And I still remember the feeling as we walked into the airport lounge and were greeted by cheers and applause. Confusion soon turned to disbelief. About 200 people were there to welcome us, to help us find our way in our new home. In the middle of the night, the 8 American friends and members of Dad's new church surrounded us, hugged us, carried our bags, swept us along. In those photos, the 5 of us looked surprised, awkward in the limelight. Dad is beaming. Mum looks relieved. I'm holding my favourite doll with the long blonde hair, and Dad is clutching the large brown envelope with our family set of x-rays, proof of our health in case someone questioned our right to remain. There's one photo of my sister, which perhaps portrays us more accurately. Wrapped in a stranger's hug, she looks uncertain, tired, already overwhelmed by a different way of being. Our suitcases had gone astray and didn't appear for another week. Our friends told us not to worry and bundled us into 4 separate automobiles, all of them huge. I spent the drive to our new home fretting about which car the dog's crate was in. When we arrived, it felt as though most of the folk from the airport lounge had also come to show us round the house. It was a blur of faces, laughter, loud conversations and relief. As a preacher's family, we were used to a furnished parsonage, but when we woke the next morning and began to explore, we realised that every cupboard and closet, fridge, cabinet and drawer were filled full to bursting. Food, bedding, clothes, crockery, everything we could possibly need had been provided for us in ample supply. My siblings and I were excited by all the new stuff. Mum was more restrained. We were used to kindness, of course, in our Irish life, but not extravagance. She couldn't understand it, was wary of what it meant. A few days later, our first Sunday in America was the 4th of July, Independence Day, 1976. I don't remember Dad's sermon, but I think he made a joke about the significant date, and Paul Revere, and the British coming. But what I do remember is the fireworks. Church folk invited us, drove us to a sports field where we sat on a grassy bank and waited with hundreds of other locals for the sun to go down. We had never experienced fireworks before. They were considered too akin to another kind of explosive device in Northern Ireland and were banned. I had never seen anything so wonderful, extravagant, dizzying in beauty. That first few weeks in Texas were dizzying in lots of ways. Ireland back then was fairly unreached by American culture, so there were many firsts: hamburgers and pizzas, shopping trips to the mall, Palo Duro Canyon, cowboys, tarantulas, crickets, armadillos, all under a relentless sun. Oh, the heat and the lack of softening rain. It's 50 years ago this summer since we boarded our first plane to a new life. We stayed in Texas for 7 years. Dad, the extrovert, thrived there, but Mum never really settled. So we boarded another plane in 1983 and made another life in England. I eventually made it back home to Ireland 15 years ago. It's good to be home. I only returned to America a couple of times in the years in between, but now I'm a regular visitor. Each time I board a States-bound plane, I'm excited to see my new friends, but I'm also carrying a smidgen of nerves and trepidation. Will it be the same, or has it changed? Will I still feel welcome there? Every visit in the last 4 years, I have been greeted with the same warmth, the same enthusiasm, the same grace as before. Extravagant, dizzying in beauty. I'm grateful for 1976, for the shelter, the safety, the chance to experience another way of living. I'm grateful for 2026 too. Here's to another 250 years of extravagant grace.
The Habit Podcast is brought to you by The Rabbit Room, where art nourishes community and community nourishes art. You can support their work, including this podcast, by becoming a member. Visit rabbitroom.com/membership. Special thanks as well to Taylor Leonard for letting us use her song Diamonds as the theme music for the Habit Podcast. You can learn more about Taylor and follow her work at taylorleonard.com. The Habit membership is a library of resources for writers by me, Jonathan Rogers. More importantly, The Habit is a hub of community where like-minded writers gather to discuss their work and give each other a little more courage. Find out more at thehabit.co.